Good morning. Hi, I'm Frank Messina, and this is the January 21st, 2025 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. Before we start, we have a number of notices we have to read. Please note, this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for a scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Seeing none. Pursuant to Governor Healey's March 29, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law 30A-20, until March 31st, 2025, this meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted in person and via remote participation. March 31st, coming soon. Every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings provided for in the order. A reminder that a person who would like to listen to this meeting while it is in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, conference ID 903-779-573, hashtag, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link on the posted agenda. While this meeting is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and will post a record of this meeting on the website as soon as possible.
Excuse me, Frank. You had the minutes.
I read the wrong one.
Yeah, so if you could just read the number again, please.
Okay, you know what I was doing?
You were on the minutes.
I was reading it from the minutes. So
And
what's different?
If you could reiterate the date, you said January 21st, just reiterate February 4th and Colin.
Okay, starting off with a bang. Again, folks, good morning. Welcome to the February 4th, 2025 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. Okay. I guess that's
Unknown
good enough.
participant is now joining.
Reference ID.
Yeah, the reference ID, if you're interested, is 903-779-573.
Right here.
Oh, it changed? Son of
This
a
is a
gun.
different meeting.
Okay.
This is our
It
meeting
changed it.
today.
Got it. Reference ID 114-328-503, hashtag. Thank you. What would I do without you? Okay, let's proceed. Roll call, Bob Lear.
Here.
Nancy Barr.
Here.
Stephanie Hamilton.
Here.
Sandy Porter.
Here.
Janet Tennyson.
Here.
Robert Stevens.
Here.
And Robert Wilson.
Here.
Robert is a newly appointed member of the commission, is an alternate position. Welcome, Robert. And the chair is here. We have a all the full members of the commission are here and voting. So Robert, again, welcome. You will be participating in all the discussion, except you just don't vote at this particular time. Again, to remind the members of the public, we do have an additional open alternate position if you are interested in joining the Historical Commission.
Unknown participant is now joining.
I'm sorry?
It's just the online, let you know an online participant for some reason.
Someone's had something to say, or just a comment? Okay. All right. Here we go. First order of business is the minutes of January 21st, 2025. I thought that looked familiar. Any comments, corrections? Yes.
On page 2, the fifth word from the top should be flood zone, not floor zone.
Got that, any?
Seventh word.
Any other comments, corrections, additions, deletions? Seeing none?
I move acceptance of the minutes.
Second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Roll call on the minutes. Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes,
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
I got it.
Is somebody saying something?
You're hearing something, but there, it's not, you don't need to speak.
Is someone outside? Could members who are calling in, could you please mute your microphones? Thank you very much. Okay, we have actually two applications. One is a continuation, and the other was one new application. So let's get to the new application, which is 24004 12 Dew Drive. This is an application to be heard in accordance with Chapter 158 for a change.
Nope, sorry for that. No, no worries.
This application, I think it's worthy of my taking a minute or two to explain to the members of the commission and to the public. This is a property that actually is just 75 years old. Recently, I guess it's 77 years old. And it goes into the category of properties which were, when we did the survey of all historic properties in town, and we're going to be talking more about that later on, I guess at the time, the cutoff was 75 or 50, 75, when we did the survey of everything,
I believe he looked at 50 years old.
50 years.
Yep.
So when this was, the town was surveyed, this property was not surveyed, and there was no Form B for the property. So it was questionable whether the property was historically significant. I just as worthy, the commission has initiated a few years ago an administrative review process. So when an application comes before the commission and it's a relatively minor change, minor alterations or repair, we don't necessarily require a full hearing. But in this case, it was more than just a minor alteration. So why don't you explain what it is you're doing, and we can take it from there.
So, good morning. My name is John Casal from Whitcomb Building and Remodeling. What we propose to do here is put a foundation under the house, the cottage. So, very simple, disconnect all the utilities, septic, anything that's connected at the bottom of the house, raise the house a little bit, just enough for the excavator to get underneath, to dig out what we need to dig out, and then pour a foundation, and then put the house right back down, no change in elevation.
Okay. All right. The procedure that we use, information, I think it's your first time before us, first thing we do after we get a general sense of what you're proposing is, well, we look at it and, well, is this property historically significant? If we determine it is historically significant, then we get into the larger discussion. So I think very quickly, I'd like to kind of walk around the room and ask the members of the commission how you feel relative to the property which you feel, although it's 77 years old, if you feel it is historically significant. It's not in a cottage community per se, but it is a typical cottage in that part of town. So let me see how you feel. I'll start down there. Robert?
It's a nice little cottage, but I don't feel it's historically significant.
Okay. Sandy?
I did not, excuse me, I did not make the site visit, but based on the pictures, I don't see any historical significance, although it is a cute cottage.
Stephanie?
I don't find it historically significant.
Okay. Janet?
No, I agree. It's a lovely cottage, but it's great what you're doing, but not historically significant.
Nancy?
I think the age makes it significant, but it is not historically significant in and of itself.
Okay. Robert? Bob? How do you feel, Bob? Okay, and here we go. Mr. Wilson. You're going to be Mr. Wilson. That's how I'm going to do it. Got to turn it on.
I agree that property does not seem to be historically significant.
Okay, you joined the club of people who forget to hit the button, but don't worry about it. You'll get reminded. Trust me, Bob.
I agree with the above. It just doesn't meet any of the other criteria beyond basically the age.
So I guess what seemed to be consensus that unanimously that this property does not meet the criteria for historical significance. As such, I think, Mr. Bob, if you could give us a motion?
I move the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the building located at 12 Dew Drive is not historically significant because it does not meet any of the definitional criteria in section 158-2, A, B, or C of the bylaw. Therefore, the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
I'll second.
Okay, got a second? All right, any of the comments from the public or members of the commission? Okay, having none, we'll proceed. Bob,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Sandy,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Good
for
luck.
everything. Take care.
Nice to see you.
Likewise.
Okay, here we go. The next application is a continuance of an application which, I don't know if it was continued from 11/19, I don't know when we first heard it. August? So it was a summertime application. Later on in the agenda, we're going to be addressing the issue of continuances, but we'll do that separately. In the meantime, we could proceed. For members of the public, this is application 24017, to be heard with both Chapter 158 or demolition delay, 75 Hallway Street. In addition, as part of the application, this property is a contributing structure in the National Register District, and we're going to be hearing that also under discussions with the Cape Cod Commission, whether or not it would be referred to the Cape Cod Commission for a substantial alteration to a contributing structure. So it's a bit confusing. We have a number of pieces of correspondence, which we will get to shortly. For members of the public, just for information, what's happening here is the applicant has presented another change to the property. And we asked him to go back twice, I guess, and work with Sarah Korjeff and the Cape Cod Commission to see if we could find a way to minimize the impact of the change to the historic structure. I appreciate your cooperation and your working with Sarah Korjeff. We do have correspondence from Sarah Korjeff. I can read that too. You got that? Okay. And I appreciate the fact that you have provided a rather substantial package, killed a lot of trees here. It far exceeds what we really require, but we do appreciate it. So I guess at this particular point, why don't you introduce yourself formally, Bill, and let's talk where we are and where we're going to go with this.
All right, thank you. Bill Riley on behalf of Joan Ann Barsamian and Rob Barsamian. Rob is here today. Since we last met, we've had extensive conversations with Sarah Korjeff as we attempt to modify the building in a manner which she finds acceptable. And so, working with Mr. Ahern, who's also here, and I think he should come up here. I think we have a design that, difficult, but I think it's a good design and something that, as I say, Sarah has indicated she can live with. So, go ahead. Ready?
Well, let me just one thing, Bill. The term acceptable, the process with the Cape Cod Commission is very simple. The Cape Cod Commission would prefer that we try to resolve things locally. And we go back to the Sarah Korjeff. For the public's information, Sarah Korjeff is the preservation specialist staff to the Cape Cod Commission, and we try to find a way to proceed. And we'll talk more about Sarah's final comments relative to acknowledging that the building, alterations may be okay. So, but it's our decision, the final, not Sarah Korjeff's. Yes.
I understand that. What I was saying was that she's not wild about it, but she could live with it. And that's all I was indicating.
What did she say?
It had nothing to do with you guys.
She's not what?
She's not wild about it, but she
Okay,
can live with it.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Okay, is this on? Yeah.
Patrick, yes.
Well, to give some more clarity.
Please introduce yourself
Yeah,
for me.
Patrick Ahern, architect for the Barsamians. To really put some more clarity to what we were trying to do with Sarah, it's really important. And based on the last presentation that we had done, we reached out to Sarah to get her opinion to share with you here today. And what she said was, while the applicant had included numerous photographs of the surrounding area to show the scale and style of architecture in the vicinity, the review question before the Chatham Historical Commission is as following: is whether the proposed plans would impact the building's historic features and its listing on the National Register of Historic Places. So that's what you're being asked to judge. Now, she went on to say that commission staff suggests that if additional changes are proposed to this building, they should be made to non-historic portions of the structure, which we've done, such as the gable-roofed L on the east side of the building, a modest expansion of this L that impacts a small portion of the original roof form might be accomplished as long as the majority of the original roof slopes and the north and south gable end forms are maintained, which we've done. The proposed plans also include some changes to the first floor, adding a window on the north wall and an interior fireplace and extending the east side deck along much of the south side of the building. These proposed first floor changes would not impact the character-defining features of this historic structure. So that was the mission that we were given.
Yeah.
And we basically took her lead on the design. We shared it with her, and that what's before you today, she's commented on. And she said, back on January 23rd of 2025, based on the plans you shared dated January 16th, 2025, the latest proposed appears to retain the original structure's character-defining features, including the majority of the original roof slope, the gabled end roof forms, and the west facade roof configuration. As such, acknowledging that this building has already seen significant alterations, many over time, I do not believe that the proposed plans would threaten the building's National Register listing, and that she sent a forward letter, a copy to you. So I think the process has worked well. We're talking about 460 some square feet of an addition. The zoning height is 30 feet in the area. We're at 28 feet.
Is 28 feet the ridge height of the new?
Yes.
The addition?
Yes.
Which was missing from the drawings. I guess you got.
Well,
that
it was
missing.
on, it's in the packet.
It's
but
in there? We just
it is.
couldn't find it?
It's there. It's small letters.
Okay, thank you.
I had to find it myself with the magnifying glass.
All right, thank you.
So we're under the height restriction. We are, in mass and scale, we're significantly smaller than the abutting houses around it, which we have photographic documentation that we can talk to you all about. And that the historic defining features of the house, which is basically the long roof, has been maintained, whereas in a previous scheme, we were modifying it, and she was quite concerned that those elements that are left of this structure as it exists today, that she determined are character-defining features, are now not being modified. And so based on that overall design direction that we did in conjunction with Sarah's acknowledgement that we are not affecting the elements that she deems historic as it would relate to a National Register building, I think we've got a winning solution that satisfies what our client is trying to achieve, to get a little more square footage. The bedroom count doesn't change. It's no more of an intensive use. The footprint doesn't change on the building. And that the character-defining historic elements are not being modified and certified by Sarah as an advisory person to your board. It's your decision, but we all know that she is an excellent resource for questions of this type, and that you strongly suggested that we reach out to her, which we did, and I think the result of the design speaks for itself. It accomplishes what the Barsamians are trying to do, to getting a little bit better bedroom configuration, not increasing the bedrooms, not affecting the historic elements as Sarah defined it, and not changing the footprint. And the overall mass and scale of the building is significantly smaller than the abutting house and many of the houses in the area. So it's not volumetric. It's not going to the maximum height. It's 2 feet lower than the zoning would allow. And for all those reasons, I think we have an approvable project from at least our point of view.
All right, well, thank you very much. Just a few comments before we open it up for questions from my own perspective. In the years I've been with this commission, which is, I guess, about almost 20, this property has been before us at least 4 or 5 times, and we've allowed it to grow. I don't want to be a wiseacre and say grow like Topsy, but it has grown, and we have allowed changes. And I'll be honest with you, every time, from my view, we say, okay, well, that's it. Okay, that's it. That's it. And I do, even with Sarah's question that she feels the commission, the Cape Cod Commission, if we do refer it, would give her report, her staff report, that, yeah, this would not jeopardize the listing on the National Register, which is one of the criteria of whether or not the Cape Cod Commission would impose a, whatever, I guess it's a delay or a stop work as a DRI. I think we as a commission are driven by that, but also by, you said in 75, the street, Holloway Street, it's a beautiful street, and there are some really significant historic structures along that street which have been maintained, which the architectural defining characters of the street have been maintained. Yes, I agree with you. When you twist and you go down along the beach, there have been some really significant changes, and that's what you're referring to, when you say it. And I don't disagree with you. But this property is an anchor in some ways. When I first saw it, it was a small little cottage, right on the end. And I can see why, which we'll talk more about, how the community, the neighbors are very concerned, because we've gone from a single, built a single little cottage to what's now almost, 2.5-story building. And that drawing, what you put up kind of says it all. Yes, you've pushed it back, Sarah, and I know the way Sarah works. You pushed it back, you pushed it away from the original historic structure. But I think, in my view, that it just makes it, I don't know what to do. I don't know if we can accommodate the applicant, Mr. Barsamian, again, to allow this property to expand to a point where we've lost the historical streetscape that we've had for most of Holloway Street. I grant you, when you turn the corner, you've got the beach shacks, and they were allowed to grow, and I don't know, I have trouble with this one, and I'm willing to listen to what the rest of I may be wrong, listen to what the rest of the commission, how they feel about it on on how to proceed. So with that, I guess the best thing to do is just to go around the room and see how people feel. Start at this end. Mr. Wilson, you're new, but go ahead.
My mic on?
Yes.
When you look at the comparison of the original building on the historic register versus what it is now, it's barely recognizable. The chimney's gone. Clearly, a building in the 1800s needed a chimney to get heat. And so there's one big change, but going from 1 story to 2.5 stories was a big change, and I guess my time's up. The other thing I would say is that the proposed addition makes the building taller, but not symmetric. It's asymmetric. It has a tower on one side and doesn't have that might be impossible not to do because of some constraints on structure. But to me, a building should be more symmetric. That's the only other comment I would make. And clearly, it's out of context with the surrounding buildings on that street.
Thank you. Bob?
I agree with what Mr. Wilson had to say. More specific, well, particularly, and we'll go through this a little bit, but the picture on page 3 of what the building was in 1930, and I think Mr. Barsamian spoke to what it was like when he bought it, which probably not much different. And I've been going down to that beach for well over 60 years, so I can say that that's what it looked like. And I know what it looks like now, and I think what it looks like now just takes it to another literally level of nonconformity with what it was to begin with. The regulations, both the town and Cape Cod Commission Act, talk about a substantial alteration being a addition, removal, alteration, or substitution of defining architectural features such that the building is incapable of yielding important historical information about its period, including changes to the following: exterior siding, roof pitch, fenestration, and the compatibility of additions in terms of general scale, massing, and materials. And likewise, the Cape Cod Commission guidelines from October 2019 mention those elements also. Ms. Korjiff, well, let me go back to what the drawings show, which fortunate to get some revised ones that actually have a proposed ridge height on it that anybody could find. Looking at, let's say, page 17.
That's 17 of the new one?
I hope it's the new one, yes. If, again, if the pages were dated, it wouldn't be such a problem.
Mr. Ahern, do you know where the ridge height was?
It's shown on page 17. It says 28 feet.
Oh, there it is, over on the right,
On the left.
on the left, rather. You see it, Bob?
No.
Way on the left.
Well, unless the staples over it. It says existing house to ridge, top of ridge, proposed top of ridge.
TO ridge, top of ridge,
7 feet.
28 feet.
Well, then I'm looking at the wrong one.
It's right here.
Look at the new one.
So the new one was emailed to you, not printed out, but Janet has a printout.
We just got another one?
Just with the ridge height, the proposed ridge height. Everything else is the same.
Okay, I got nervous.
Well, I did see the email saying it was 28 feet.
Okay, fine.
And that actually is my next question. Looking at the drawings, the one we were just talking about, page 17, I'm having trouble with that top difference, the extension of the line of 26.7. And it's supposed to be 2 feet higher? I don't.
Could you speak up, Bob?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. The proposed top of ridge is now 26.7 feet? Email said 28 feet. Right.
Hold on.
That's all right.
If the public could just bear with us a second.
I wrote in 28 feet. I'm all right. I'm all right.
You don't have to get up.
Patrick, could you point to that on the drawing for the public? What we're talking about? This was just received. I didn't get it either. Well, I hadn't opened my email.
Well,
You have to stay here.
now they're saying it's 28 feet, so,
So the proposed ridge height of the new addition is
28 feet as shown on the
Right.
drawings.
and then that, I guess my question is, I'm not seeing it quite well. I see the numbers,
Yeah, this is 21.
but,
Bring it over to here.
yeah, I know,
Oh,
right.
yeah, you're right. Sorry.
So then we got two things. One, that space on the line going up between proposed top of ridge and you're raising, are you raising it 1.5 feet is basically what I'm asking.
Patrick, I think the confusion is on,
I can't hear you.
Patrick, I think the confusion is on what you're showing there on the screen to the public and what you emailed this morning shows the line not to the top of the ridge on the drawing we have.
I mean, this is the drawing, and it shows, here's the proposed top of ridge
Hit the bottom of the line. Yeah, right there.
that's from
But it's not
existing
in-
grade,
Has he got the wrong package?
come up here,
This-
and
so
it comes across, and there's your height.
21 is the top of the existing. and
If you look at
28
if you look at the
top of
plan,
Proposed.
there's
So it's
a
going
circle
up 7
at the bottom
and change,
where it says
not,
elevation 1.6 basement. From that circle to the top of the ridge is 28 feet. So both ridges are being measured from the same spot. It just, because they put in, elevation 0 grade, it's a little confusing.
So I'm to believe the building is going to be 7 feet higher than it is now?
That's correct.
Okay. And I had a question about, I guess now the old drawing, the dotted line that showed the top of ridge went through the roof of the new additions, but you've
What he's
corrected that.
referring to is the package which we received on January 31st, which was the the larger package. If you go to 17,
Ms. Janice.
and the proposed TO ridge, if you bring that line across, it doesn't go to the top of the ridge.
Goes through the roof.
It cuts through the roof. You know what we're talking about?
I don't have those drawings. All I know is we were asked to provide the top of ridge elevation at
At
28
one
feet.
point, I was asked if we would delay this again because of this issue, and can I ask you to come over here, Patrick?
Sure.
I apologize. I apologize to the members of the public and to the members of staff, but let's resolve this.
If I could,
This is-
if I could
this
make a
is-
comment,
Just, this is.
the difference of an inch or two,
Hold on, Mr. Riley, just hold on. This is the package we received.
But that height elevation was 26 foot 7 inches.
Okay, unfortunately, you got it, you have to talk. Look at,
Okay. On the set you're questioning, on page 17, the height from the existing grade at elevation 0.0 to through the roof
Through the
was
ridge.
26 foot 7, and then we were asked to comment, well, what is it to the top of the ridge?
Right.
And that's 28 feet.
Right.
And the drawings were provided to you that says it's 28 feet.
Yes,
You got that, Bob?
I didn't get it.
I do. I did not get that in a
Okay,
format that I could read
Sorry
on
about
my
that.
computer.
okay.
All right, so this version, undated, is 28 feet, and it goes actually to the top of the ridge of the proposed
Thank you.
house.
All right.
Oh, wait a minute,
We're,
wait a minute, wait.
are you,
And the allowable zoning is 30 feet, just a reminder.
say again?
We
The
keep here,
allowable zoning is 30 feet,
Yeah, well,
so we're under that.
excuse-
zoning is not our bailiwick.
Right. Your submissions keep referring to zoning and neighborhood look and all that. That is not our business. Our business is whether you are substantially altering a building on the National Register. It doesn't matter about the neighborhood,
Well,
Mr. Ayer.
you know, I might take you up on that because it's not the whole building, it's the elements that were deemed historic that come into play here.
What?
The other thing is, you know, this, as Frank mentioned, this has been before you numerous times, there have been numerous additions. And Sarah's point of view is, if you're taking an addition that was done in the more recent times and you want to change it, she didn't have an issue with that because that was not from the historical point of view. So her take on it was, and it was her direction that this design was developed. She said, well, if you want to modify the roof of that other addition that was more recently done, I don't have an issue with that as long as you preserve the historic defining elements that were still left standing, which was that long roof that was even shown in the original cottage. This house has been picked up, as approved by this board, picked up, elevated, modified, changed in a number of different ways, which I think you acknowledged in the very beginning, Frank. So to make a change to a more modern element, not expanding the footprint of the property, well within the height that's allowed, and not changing the historic defining element whatsoever, seemed to be a reasonable approach to get a little more square footage, only 400 and some square feet more, not change the footprint, and to be perfectly candid, you know, I think the architecture of the modified piece seems to give the house some more character and maybe helps define, in my opinion only.
Sorry, I didn't mean to raise my eyebrows when you said
I
give it
know,
more
I know.
character.
We all have
Okay.
opinions, but, you
Yes,
know,
that's an opinion.
you know,
Yeah.
I am a licensed architect
you
and
know-
practicing for 48 years. so-
I know, I appreciate that. We're getting argumentative, and I don't want to be
we
at
wouldn't
that
wanna do
particular
that.
point. But, you know, right, it's opinion, but I had a quick question, just to decide, because we mentioned a couple of times, if this was a court of law, I'd say, well, he introduced the subject, zoning. Do you required to go to zoning?
Yes,
For what? For what?
because we're increasing the living area of a non-conforming structure.
Okay, and not the height? Nope.
Well,
And what about the footprint? Are you able to increase the footprint?
We're not
legally?
changing the
we're
footprint.
not changing the footprint.
I know, so
I mean,
could you?
theoretically, you could ask for permission to change the footprint.
Could you change the footprint? Is it
Well,
allowable?
only if the zoning board allowed it.
So if you would increase the footprint, you would need to go to zoning?
Yes.
That's kind of the question.
Yes.
Anything that increases the
The
living
change.
area of the structure
I just wanted to clarify that for my
has to
own.
go to the zoning board of appeals.
Okay. All right. Rob?
I guess to simplify this, I think it's sort of, I know it when I see it kind of thing. I see the picture from 1930. That is the measure by which we're determining whether or not there's been a substantial alteration. And I don't think you can look at that picture and look at the four proposed drawings on pages 14 to 17, 18, and say that it does not substantially change it. So I've got to think it's got to go to the Cape Cod Commission.
All right. Let me just clarify that. One of the things that Mr. Lear is referring to, technically, a contributing structure in the National Register District, and we're a new member and the members of the commission, when the changes are greater than 25%, it's effectively a mandatory referral to the Cape Cod Commission. So this building has changed a lot more than 25%. And you're right, at least 2 or 3 times, we said, okay, we think we can work with it. All right, let's go continue. Robert, we'll start down to that end, work our way back.
Well, we're in kind of a tough spot here because Sarah Burchett said, well.
Robert, turn your microphone on and bring the microphone closer to you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
So Cape Cod Commission has said, well, okay, if you do these things, we'll be okay. And the Old Village Association has come back and and some neighbors and have pushed back pretty hard on it. It's a tough one because I understand what the applicant's trying to do. I mean, he's trying to get some space for his family, and he's been before us several times, is determined. And so I'm kind of on the middle of the road here, but I think if I have to say which way I'd vote on it, I'd be against it. I don't think it's aesthetically very attractive, and I can see why the neighbors are giving you pushback. Christina, were there any letters of support from any of the neighboring or adjoining properties?
Not that I'm aware of,
Not support, just the negative
just
letters.
of opposition.
Yeah. I think everything's been said that we can say, so you can go around.
Thank you. Sandy?
I've been on here, on this commission almost as long as Frank, and I know that this has come before us several times. I'm sorry to say I can't support this.
Thank you. Steph?
I just have a question. This is boarded up because of safety now? One of my papers said that it was boarded up because of safety.
I'm sorry, Steph, could you repeat that question?
One of the papers I read said this was boarded up now for safety reasons. And I was just wondering how this was going to make it safer, but if it's not,
No, I don't
I
think,
think the 1930 picture was boarded up. I don't
Right.
know.
It was the
I don't-
picture from 1930, it was boarded up.
oh, no, yeah, right, exactly. The original cottage, when it was there before Mr. Persimmon bought it, and when he bought it, it was boarded up. It was not inhabited at the time for many years. There was a major disruption of that street when I think this property lost about half of its land mass when it fell into the
And
sea.
also, it lost, the building was much larger,
Right, yeah,
and they lost about 2/3 of the building.
right. Janet?
Well, it's a great location, but I think the historical significance was lost a long time ago. But this really pushes it over. That third story, I think really is a problem. I'm having a problem with that. It just,
Well, you bring up a good point there when you mention that. There is a process for removing something from the National Register. It's not an easy process, but you can.
yeah.
Nancy?
First of all, I think I would speak for all of us to say we appreciate you working with Sarah Korjeff and listening to feedback from Sarah. And her points are, important in terms of, I think I brought it up in August, that, that roof line, that's how we can figure out where that original 1930 cottage still is. And I appreciate the efforts to retain that. I think what I'm really struggling with and what is reflected from the comments of my colleagues, as Bob Lear said, the law isn't just solely about those key things that you discussed with Sarah, but it's also about changes that overwhelm or obscure the original structure. And I think what's happened is in going back to try to retain the roof line and all those important things, you've now got an addition that completely overwhelms the original structure where it is, so that you are doing one good thing, but on the other hand, that kind of, very tall addition has an impact on the historical significance of the structure in a different way, I think. I think that's what we're struggling with. We aren't the Board of Appeals. It is not our job to determine whether it's suitable for the neighborhood. However, it's a National Register district, so you're right. Like, we do have to look at this building in context of the neighborhood and what it was in 1930 and what it was when it became a contributing structure is very, very different now. And I think that these iterative changes, at a certain point, which may be now, another change, a very tall addition, even though it struggles to retain some historical significance and structural details of the property, I think it's kind of pushed it over the edge. That's my thinking. Do you want me, we'll read the,
Yeah, we'll get to that.
okay, so.
Okay, so we have as Nancy was attempting to segue, we do have comments from the members of the public who have commented on it, and we also see a number of people in the audience. I assume some of you folks who are calling in want an opportunity to say something. Am I correct?
Well, they all muted themselves.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do, just so you know,
Hands raised.
I'm going to read the correspondence that we received from members of the public, and it may be you're the ones who submitted the correspondence, so I would just ask you that if in fact we've read your letter, you know, if you can just say that's my letter and that's how I feel, unless you have something different to contribute to the discussion, I would appreciate it. Okay? So at this point, I'd ask the clerk, Nancy, to read the correspondence.
Do you want me to go through Sarah's letter, even though it's been most of it paraphrased?
Yes.
Do you want me to read it?
Yes, I
Okay,
think the
so
applicant
I'll
would
start
like
with
that. Surely.
the letter. It was in response to outreach from Patrick Ahern's office that she responded, and it's dated Thursday, January 23rd, 2025. It's from Sarah Korjeff. Her official title is Planner 2, Historic Preservation Specialist of the Cape Cod Commission. Thank you for sending me the updated proposal for 75 Hallway Street in Chatham. My apologies for being slow to respond. I was out of the office for over a week. Based on the plans you shared, issue date 1/16/2025, January 16th, the latest proposal appears to retain the original structure's character-defining features, including the majority of the original roof slope, the gable end roof forms, and the west facade window configuration. As such, acknowledging that this building has already seen significant alteration, I do not believe the proposed plans would threaten the building's National Register listing. I am copying town staff and would be happy to discuss.
I would just comment about, this is Mrs. Korjeff's last correspondence. We've been going through this for the last 3 or 4 months, but we won't go back and read the previous correspondence. Go.
Okay, so this is from Winnie Lear, President of the Old Village Association, which is the association that is in the National Register District. Dear Commissioners, this is dated January 28th, 2025. The Board of Directors of the Old Village Association represents property owners in Chatham's Old Village National Register Historic District, and many who care deeply about the Old Village, to preserve and protect the historic nature and architectural beauty and integrity of the Old Village area. The board writes to express our concerns regarding the most recent application for alterations to the house at 75 Hallway Street. We believe that the changes proposed for this house are such that the historic character and integrity of the original structure would no longer be reflected in the site. 75 Hallway Street began as a single-story cottage. The proposed third-floor addition looms over the existing structure such that the house that existed when it was declared a contributing structure in the Old Village National Historic District cannot be identified. Other houses on Hallway have been altered over the years. However, those alterations have allowed the original structure to remain discernible to the street viewer and have thus retained the historic appearance of the setting. The west and south elevation of 75 Hallway Street house can be viewed from the street. The changes proposed substantially alter the profile of the house from the street and render it unrecognizable as the structure was originally built. We encourage the applicants and the commission to work together to find a solution that maintains the historic appearance of the structure. We further encourage the commission to consider either referring the application to the Cape Cod Commission or imposing a demolition delay so that creative solutions can be developed and evaluated. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to comment. The next one, we have a couple of messages which I'll condense into a couple, so we reflect all the comments from Chris Whalen. And he says in his first message, to the members of the Chatham Historical Commission, I am the co-owner of a property on Hallway Street that is a direct abutter to 75 Hallway Street. I wish to convey that I am troubled by the renovation plans the Barsamians are proposing. The plan's disproportionate scale and lack of symmetry would disrupt the neighborhood's aesthetic harmony, in my opinion. As you are likely aware, there are 5 homes in a relatively close proximity at the eastern end of Hallway Street, and I feel that a 3-story house would be a towering presence that would impact all. I don't have a firm understanding of the grounds on which you will consider this matter, but I want to contribute a photograph of what existed on this site historically. As you can see in the attached picture, 75 Hallway Street was a single-story home. This photograph was taken about 2004. This is the photograph. I don't know if that can be seen, but. Then another message from Charles Whalen. As a direct abutter of 75 Hallway Street and owner of 73 Hallway Street, I find the Barsamian plans for further expansion of 75 Hallway Street totally inappropriate. The proposal is to expand the house to 3 stories where traditionally a single-story house stood. A house with a silo stacked on top of the north end of the house is not in accord with the surrounding houses, which have a more traditional Chatham feel. The stacking or add-on is attractive and has a significant negative impact. Is unattractive and has a significant negative impact.
I like the
Apologize.
first version better.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you for considering this objection when you evaluate the proposed plans. These plans should be rejected. Sincerely, Charles A. Whalen, MD. And that was very similar to one other message. There's a message from Merritt Weber. Good morning. I write today with concern and objection to the proposed 3rd-story addition of 75 Hallway Street. Sorry, this is dated February 3rd, 2025. The Barsamians are neighbors, and while I would like to be able to support, I do object permitting this addition in the historic district. My sense is that the height of the 3rd story is not in keeping with the historic nature of the old village. I also respectfully request the town notify abutters to changes in submitted plans. These plans and this hearing date were communicated to us third hand, and I believe it is the onus of the town and this commission to notify abutters of such changes. Many thanks for your consideration, Merritt Weber.
Just let me comment, there is a process for notifying abutters. What is it, we do it in 500 feet?
It's 50 feet for historic.
50 feet. And so there was notification for unfortunately, just the abutters within 50 feet. I have to agree with you, the process gets complicated because of multiple continuances and not necessarily the public having access to a complicated submission, and we apologize for that, but we try our best. Go ahead.
Okay, and the final letter is from John Whalen, 17 Lighthouse Lane, also dated February 3rd, 2025. I am no longer a property owner on Lower Hallway Street, but my history there goes back to the 1950s. I believe the plan submitted by the Barsamians is not in keeping with the neighborhood on Hallway Street. I specifically feel the height on the northern side is too high. I sympathize with the Barsamians in their attempt to gain more living space, but the elevation on the northern side is simply too high.
Okay, we're going to ask for the members of the public. We have a number of people here, and then in the audience who would speak for or against the application. Mr. Barsamian, if you would like, I saw you got up, if you wanted to speak, you're certainly welcome. Just introduce yourself formally.
Rob Barsamian, the owner of 75 Hallway Street. I just wanted to kind of clarify a couple things that were said along the way. First, it's not a 3-story house. The people, specifically Merritt and Chris and Charlie and John, their house is taller than my house. So it's not a 3-story house. It's under the code. It's a 2.5-story house. So it looks like it has a peak to it, but obviously we're lower than all the abutting houses around us other than one. There's 13 homes on Holloway Street. I didn't get all, there's one person that's an abutter, which I didn't see those letters. I'm just hearing about them today. They have 2 homes out of the 13. I didn't get the other people to write letters and the motel because I didn't think it was appropriate at this level. They would do that at the zoning level, which, we've done before. I think Frank mentioned there's a process to take it off of the registry. So originally, after our last hearing, I called Sarah and said, Sarah, what is that process? And let's just talk about why my house was on that registry when it makes zero sense to me, because usually a historical house is a house, and we've done this a lot in our other developments, is a house that existed that you refurbished. This house that you see a picture of is no longer there. It didn't exist. I kept the form of the roof as a compromise to the cottage. It wasn't like I took the house, I remodeled the house, and then added on to that. There's no house. There's 6 2x4s in one of the rooms behind a wall. So what I did is I reached out to a number of historical preservationists and said, how do I get this off the registry? It makes no sense. Even the person that put it on the registry. Here's their comment. Rob, it's remarkable to think anyone would consider this a contributed building structure in the National Registry District. These are 3, they said virtually the same thing. Not the person that put it on, he didn't want to write a letter because he felt like he had a conflict because he was the one that put this on the registry.
Could you tell us who it is you're talking about?
I'm not going to tell you who the 3.
Well, then, kind of.
You don't, look at it, it's just
It's
an
kind of,
observation.
it's kind of goosey there.
Not really,
You're reading
because
something.
I can remember Don Fried.
Let me finish, Bill. Excuse me. I mean,
Well, look,
Mr.
you don't have to
Riley,
take
I
it-
was
take it as it
talking. If you
is.
don't interrupt me, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Bassamian, I appreciate it. That's a very simple question. When someone writes a letter to the commission, they need to sign it. When someone wants to stand up and give us a discussion, they sign it. That's all. It's just a very simple question. So you give me someone's opinion, and you don't know who is, or you can't divulge his name.
I'll tell you who, it's Epson Associates, they're historical preservationists, they're in Massachusetts, they do most of the historical
Okay, so
preservation work.
it's a preservationist, not necessarily the preservationist who contributed.
Not the one who put this on the register,
Okay, well,
that's
that's what I was trying to do, because
No.
I apologize, because in my listening to what you're saying, and I am listening, every word you're saying, it sounded like you were talking about the person who was part of the decision to put this on the National Register. That's why I was asking the
Yeah,
question.
He didn't want to go down that path because he had worked for the town.
So
My only point to that
Yes.
is that, my only point to that is when I spoke, you brought it up, I was just kind of
No,
commenting to that point. It takes a long
hear you.
time, and Sarah said it's doable to do, but it could take a couple years to do. And she thought that there was a solution to getting what I needed without having to do that. And when we heard from specifically Bob last time, at the end of the hearing, he said, I'm not going to make a decision until you talk to Sarah. So we did that. We did exactly what you asked us to do.
And I do appreciate that.
Okay, so I wanted to be clear on that point.
Yes.
Because that was important to me, that we followed what you asked us to do.
And
We came back, we didn't want to put it just in one area of the house because the circulation is very difficult. We wanted to actually go over the existing structure. And Sarah even thought we could probably touch a little bit of it, but we felt the board, especially Nancy, the last time said, look, you're touching that original structure. And so Patrick and I talked about it and said, look, let's come up with a design that I could live with, meaning quote unquote live with, that doesn't touch it at all. So anyways, those are the couple points I just wanted to kind of clarify.
And I do appreciate that.
Okay? And, the one thing that you keep saying is it's not a 3-story house. And it's lower than most of the houses around me, other than one. And the dormers, even though there's been substantial changes on Hallway Street, almost to every single house on Hallway Street,
Yes.
the roof lines and dormers and height have all changed also. Even John Whalen's house, which is right next to me, this whole roof line is completely different than it originally was. He has a garage underneath it. He has a basement floor. The dormers are a completely different structure. The peaks are higher than the peak that we're showing. So when we say it's not, it doesn't fit in the neighborhood, I just don't agree with that. It does fit in the neighborhood, and because when you look at it, every house has a different look on Hallway Street, and that's what makes it interesting.
Yes. Let me
Thank
just say one thing, Mr. Bassamian.
Sure.
And I appreciate it. And, when this came before us in August, my initial inclination then was no. And we don't like to say no. We don't like to put a demolition delay in. We don't like to send it to the Cape Cod Commission. We work very hard to try to find some kind of a compromise. And that's why we use Sarah. Sarah is, as Mr. What do you call it? Ahearn indicated, she's good at what she does, okay? And she has some interesting ways to try and help us preserve and maintain the general historic character. You know, she's got two jobs. You know, maintain the National Register's historical significance and also help us in finding some kind of a compromise. And trust me, in my 20 years here, we've done it at least, 50 times, and she usually is successful. And I think over the years, maybe we've only referred 2-3 homes to the Cape Cod Commission because we try to work it out, okay? And that's what we're trying to do. Unfortunately, just reading the sense of the commission is that that structure, that, I won't call it 3 stories, but that structure sticking out there in that particular spot, looking at the rest of the street, not necessarily, and I agree with you, you turn the corner to the water and it's a different neighborhood. I agree with you. But your house is part of that other streetscape. And I think that's what was irking the people, so.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I
And
think
you-
I was hearing something a little different, though. It was that you've come back too many times. We can't do, that point, I guess, was.
Come back what?
I've come here too many times.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons why that you're not, I guess, in favor of, what we're doing. I didn't want to have to come back here. I didn't, this many times.
Of course.
Right? So this wasn't like I'm not happy doing this, right? So anyways, I think we did what you asked us to do. We figured out how to do it and to satisfy Sarah's issue.
And unfortunately, it just
And-
hasn't satisfied us.
Right, so, I'm sorry for that, but I think that some of the points that I made, I wanted to just express because I think that there's a different point of view on the street also about this project, and I've shown it just about to everyone on the street.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And, I just comment, personally, it's been a lot of years that we've allowed things to happen to your property to allow it to be more expansive for your family, okay? But this particular one, the consensus now is not too good. So, look, at this point, we got people in the public who would like to speak, and let me listen. Any members of the public there who are online who would like to speak? So, can you tell if they're raising hands?
There's no hands raised.
Okay, so it sounds like none of the people who are calling in would like this particular comment. All right, ladies and
Frank?
gentlemen, I'm sorry, Mr. Riley, go.
In terms of whether the home should be removed, I will remind you that Don Freeman, who was a member for many years and a very valuable asset to the town, the last time we were here, said, I think this building should be removed from the historic register.
Yeah, but that's not our job.
Right. I'm just saying.
No, I brought it up. It's not our job, okay? And you got to remember, when a National Register district is established, it's kind of like a snapshot. And it says, whoops, this is it. There are some buildings in the National Register District, this National Register District, the South Chatham National Register District, which people say, I don't understand why this isn't, but it is. It's part of the character, the architectural defining character of the district, okay? And individually, the building may not be, a 1700 house where Bill Nickerson lived, but it still is a structure which is in a National Register District, and it adds to the general historical architecture and tenor of the town. And this particular one, I'm reading the commission is, we can't go. We can't go. So now we have a decision. I'm sorry, yes, back.
Yeah, I just wanted to, just to get some clarification on next steps, assuming.
Which is what I was gonna do.
That this board, votes this design down.
Yeah, we have two decisions to make here. We're hearing this both under Chapter 158, the demolition delay, and referral to the Cape Cod Commission. Assuming we have a consensus, and the consensus is to refer this to the Cape Cod Commission, it would be a motion in which we will prepare documentation for the, Jay, what's his title, Briggs?
Building commissioner.
The building commissioner, Mr. Briggs, would then make the formal presentation to the Cape Cod Commission at our request.
Right.
That happens. Once it's done, then you would be informed, and generally what happens after a couple of months or so, they have a hearing, and the hearing usually is here, and we go through the whole thing. You know, you're allowed to present to the Cape Cod Commission your position, you know, we give our report of whatever we felt, why we felt it was referred to the Cape Cod Commission. They'll make a decision. I have to tell you, you know, turn my microphone off, 9 out of 10 times, the commissioners say, yeah, go ahead.
Right, so let's just follow this out forward, just so I understand the process. So if all of you refer this to the Cape Cod Commission, the same design that Sarah's already written a letter of support from, and let's assume for the moment, take the high road, that the Cape Cod Commission comes back and saying that for all the reasons that Sarah said, that they want to see the project happen the way it's been designed. So it comes back as a referral from the Cape Cod Commission to this board?
No.
No?
No, no.
What
No,
happens?
once the Cape Cod Commission, whatever the Cape Cod Commission decides,
Right.
that's it.
That's it?
That's
So
it.
it overrides your decision in effect?
That's correct. It's an override decision. But there's two decisions for us to make. Not to give you a catch-22, but we also are going to be hearing this or have heard this, and we're going to go around the room, whether or not we should impose a demolition delay.
Right, and that's 18 months?
No, that's up to whatever we decide.
Oh, I see.
And that's going to be a discussion that we're going to have here. And I'll tell you very simply, I'll tell you what the discussion is. Okay, we're going to refer it to the Cape Cod Commission. That's going to take 3 months. It could take a year, okay? And the Cape Cod Commission is going to make a decision. The second decision is, even though this has been dragging on since August, do we want to give Mr. Barsamian another chance to think about it and maybe hire a different architect? That's a joke.
I thought I was the last one standing on this.
Okay. And to find another way to meet his requirements, okay, to increase the living space without going up as high as he could. He could do that, but we're going to give him time, and then he would come back to the commission. So if you change the design, this is not like a zoning board where you got to wait 2 years.
Yeah.
If you change the design and come back with a new application, pay $150, we could hear that. And then we could do two things. We can eliminate the demolition delay, and B, we could go back to the Cape Cod Commission and say, that's off, or you would withdraw your application to the Cape Cod Commission.
Right.
And then say, we're now working again with the.
So if under the demolition delay, if we come up with a plan that you ultimately don't like either, and if
18
we
months, you can-
wait out the 18, if it's 18 months or whatever it may be, would then he be able to go forward as a right or not?
Absolutely.
So he could. So it's a timing thing.
Yes. It's the 18-month delay, or let me phrase it another way. We have a demolition delay bylaw. It happens to be maximum 18 months.
Right.
And the purpose of that is to work with the
Right,
applicant.
no, I understand.
To see if we could find another.
So we've been working with the board. We worked with Sarah Korjeff. We followed her direction to a T. We've done all of that, and we still now find ourselves in a situation where the board is not happy.
Yes.
So the alternative could be to wait out 18 months and then go to the building department for a building permit. Is that
That's
true?
correct. Or what I would, quite honestly, to give you my opinion,
Yeah.
we've been doing this since August, so we've been doing this for 6 months already.
Right.
And I think, in my opinion, if we were to impose a demolition delay, 18 months on top of the 6 months we've already working is punitive. And, and I think that's a bit much.
Right.
And I think if we do impose a demolition delay, I would recommend, it's up to the commission, we impose maybe a year or 9 months or something like that.
right.
Something more reasonable.
But in terms of process, just so I'm clear,
Yes,
we've been the good listener. We've done multiple designs. We've worked with Sarah, and we haven't come up to something that the board accepts.
yes.
So Do we go back at bat one more time? Possibly. Or do we just say, pencils down, whatever delay is been imposed on the project, wait out the delay, and then just file for the building permit with the plans? Is that a viable option?
It's a viable option, but I certainly personally would hope you wouldn't do that.
Right.
I would hope that you find a way, as I said, where you could accommodate the owner in some way, maybe not 100%, in terms of living in space with a design that is not in the face.
Right. I mean, the issue that I gathered from everyone is the volume increase, the change in
That's
increase in
correct.
height.
That's
So that
correct.
seems to be the neighbors, that's what their concern is.
Absolutely.
And that's what this board's concern is, that it went from just a simple little hut cottage, then it got elevated, and it's had all these other things done to it, and that making it taller is problematical for the board.
That's correct. And I would point out very simply, a story I tell people in 1700 when somebody came here and built a half cape, okay? And then they had more kids, they put an L on it, then they put another L on it. The way buildings tend to grow historically
Right.
on the Cape is
Right.
This
There's
way.
the house, there's the barn, they grew into the barn, then they grew into the livery stable. Yeah, my house in Edgartown's 1790-something, and I get the drill, so.
Okay, so that's, I think, that's my own opinion. Yes,
I wanted to ask a question.
say again, just,
I wanted to ask a question.
surely,
So Mr. Hearn was asking about the process,
yes.
So I'm asking about the process too. What if, what if they choose to go to Cape Cod Commission and Sarah comes back and says, do it?
Yes,
And then.
yes, that's it.
Well, let me finish. So then they go to zoning and zoning says, forget it.
Yeah, right, there's a long process.
That third story, what if they put them through what we've already have a problem?
Let me answer another, excuse me for interrupting. The Cape Cod Commission doesn't override zoning. They still have to meet the local zoning requirements.
But, okay.
Right,
All
so
right.
in other words, we're still not out of the box yet.
Absolutely.
We would then have to, even if we either got approval from the Cape Cod Commission that overrode your decision,
You still have to go
we
back
still
to
have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
All right, got a
And the
quick one?
Zoning Board of Appeals will be very concerned about what abutters have to say and volume and scale, even though, our position would be that we're underneath the zoning and height, we're not increasing the footprint on a building. They're going to look at the building as it is today, not as it was in 1930.
Yes.
So they're going to look at this building, and we're asking for 400 square feet addition on the same footprint under the height restriction. So from a zoning envelope point of view,
I think you'd be
there's
all
a
right.
reasonable, you probably have a reasonableness to have it approved, because they're not looking at the architecture, they're not looking at historical, they're looking at mass and scale. Do you meet the zoning envelope? We're not increasing the footprint. They're going to look at the building the way it is. So the neighbors will have another opportunity to voice their concerns at that board.
Yes. All right, look, ladies and gentlemen, we're taking a long time. Quick question?
Yeah, I just really, I'm sorry, it's about the process again. We are hearing this under two different laws.
Right.
We can both.
Yes.
Send it to the Cape Cod Commission and impose a
Absolutely.
delay.
Yes.
And the Cape Cod Commission's decision does not end our delay.
That's correct.
Okay,
Okay,
just want
let's,
you to understand
ladies
that.
and gentlemen, we need to wrap this up because we do have other things to do, and I can see them getting nervous in the control room. All right, Mr. Lear, I think first, let's put the Cape Cod Commission thing out of the way, if that's what you're going to do.
Let me just ask a question about that, though, because I don't remember the details, and I think Mr. Riley probably does, about a dual referral and the timing of that. We can't string them out or do it consecutively.
No.
No.
That there's a fraction, we have to do it within,
Yeah, we're
60
entitled
days
to
or
the-
whatever,
We're
yeah.
entitled to decisions under both bylaws today.
Yes.
right, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, technically,
I'm not trying to string it out, I'm just
I know
wanting to
you're
make
not.
sure we're,
all right, this has been a good education. Let's go, guys, please.
all right. All right, I move that the Chatham Historical Commission reconfirm that the home building is a at 75 Hallway Street is a contributing structure in a National Historic Register District.
Okay, the second, please.
Second?
Okay, we're just reaffirming the historical significance and a contributing structural National Register District. We're going to do a roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Okay, Bob?
All right, second piece, I move the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the materials presented to this date showing that the proposed alterations, addition, renovations do constitute a substantial alteration to a contributing structure located in the National Register Historic District, and therefore a referral to the Cape Cod Commission for review is necessary.
Okay, second, please.
Second.
Second, thank you. Comments? Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Now, so we have reaffirmed the historical significance, and we referred it to the Cape Cod Commission. Now, what the question is at this particular point, in addition to that, which is completely independent, and the clock will start today, are we going to further encourage the applicant to do something, even though you're right, we've done 6 months? I would say a demolition delay, in my opinion, is appropriate. Maybe not the full 18 months, but I'll leave that to you. Mr. Lear?
Questioning, did we find this historically significant in one of the first sessions?
Yes, we
Yes,
did.
We
You'd
did.
just be reaffirming.
Confirmed it on,
You can just reaffirm again. It's
yeah,
fine.
all right. I move the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the building located at 75 Hallway Street is historically significant because it is whole or in part 75 years old or more, and it is listed on an area with the National Register of Historic Places, and that's enough to confirm
Okay.
the historical significance.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Steph? Thank you. All right, Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay.
Second piece, Chatham Historical Commission also finds the proposed work to be done dated, I guess it's, the last one is January 29th. Oh, that's, okay.
January 31st.
No, that's the date, the time stamp.
Oh, okay.
Plan is January 29th, Mr.
I have the
Ahern.
drawing dated
Well-
February 4th for today's presentation. I don't know if that.
Okay, we'll make it,
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
I have the set of drawings for today's presentation date on it of February 4th, 2025.
okay.
Oh, wait a second.
The ones we were
Let me
emailed.
ask a question. Trustee, what you presented there, you presented just the difference in the height.
That's it.
There's no other
There's
change
no
to the
difference. It
structural.
was just a clarification on the height.
So why don't you say both, Bob? January 29th and February, what's the date? February 4th. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Let me just start from the beginning. Chatham Historical Commission also finds that the proposed work to be done dated January 29th and February 4th, 2025, will materially diminish the historic significance of the structure. Therefore, the commission imposes a demolition delay in the amount of 365 days.
1 year?
Yes.
Second?
Second?
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion or the time? I think it's appropriate, 1 year, and we'll leave it at that. Okay, Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate all your
No,
effort.
thank you very much. I really feel that hopefully we would have find a way to do this, but, okay. Here we go.
Not going up, I know that.
Say again?
Not going up.
No. Thank you. And I really thank the commission for your patience and diligence on this. We don't do it often, but I think this was appropriate. Okay, we have a couple of things that I really would have liked to done. Is everybody going to hang out here for another half hour? Okay? Ready to go. All right. Very simply, I'm going to have a lot of pages to sign. On the agenda, there's two things which I think are appropriate that we should talk about. Under new business was the rules and regulations. You have before you your rules and regulations in this book, which the staff, Christina, has over the time improved it. It has two things in it. The first tab, by the way, now I feel like a teacher. The first tab in your assignment here is the Cape Cod Commission Act. If you go I'm not telling you to read the whole thing, but if you go through the back of it, there's a section called referring historic properties to the Cape Cod Commission. You might want to take a look at that. And it's what we did today, which was a mandatory referral. And, just to be more familiar with it, you don't have yours yet, do you? He does. Bob? Robert, you have it, so you might take a look at that. All right. The second thing is the Chapter 158, which I assume we're all very familiar with. Two issues have come up in recent time, which I think we want to have a discussion, and that is this discussion of who determines a property is historically significant. Because as part of our process, we often say, well, if the building's not historically significant, then you could proceed. So the way the bylaw is currently written, and I think it's my interpretation, I'm not a lawyer, is that the Historical Commission, as a commission, determines when thing is historically significant. So the question that I've asked Christina and Katie Donovan, our Director of Community Development, is to ask Town Council for an opinion of how a National Register designation occurs. Why am I doing that? I'm doing that because in the process of what just happened here today with 12 Dew Street, where Christina wanted just to make this an administrative approval. And I said, well, our rules and regulation talk about, that's the third thing, talk about effectively a minor change or a maintenance. And I just felt, because rightfully so, Christina and I consult, or Christina consults with the chair, whoever's going to be sitting in this chair, whether or not the alteration is minor. And I just felt that a new foundation, that's not minor. That's a significant change, and we should hear it. But by the same token, it was pretty obvious to me and the commission that it really wasn't historically significant. But yet we forced these people to come here and have it, and pay the $150. And luckily, they were nice folks. Trust me, Christina gets some people who are not so nice, and they give her a hard time. I go, why am I before, and so we established the administrative review process to try and help the town, help the people in the town, help Christina. And I want to go back to see if there's another way that we could determine historical significance. Let me tell you, I did a little research. Good old Sarah Korjeff, her name is taken in vain 100 times today, as a resource. What do the other commissions do? Well, guess what? A lot of commissions, their bylaw doesn't impose the person who does the historical to the commission. It could be the commission, or it could be a preservation consultant. And a lot of towns have a preservation consultant on the staff. Well, we don't have that, okay? We do have a preservation consultant, Eric Dre. If we would ask him for a decision, he would ask to be paid. And I'm sure the town is not going to go for that. So we need to look at something and think about it. How can we do that? A third way they do it, some towns which don't have a preservation consultant on staff or hire him as a subcontractor, is that the commission uses the Form B. So just as we do, we put a lot of credence to our Form Bs. And what the commission does is, well, there's no Form B, well, it's not historic. So it doesn't even come before the commission. So the only homes that come before the commission in those towns are those homes in which there's a Form B. And I see Nancy shaking her head no. because guess what? Nancy and I both were involved in generating Form Bs. Some of those Form Bs has Frank Messina's name on it. I didn't know a three-quarter cape from a Italiente, okay? So, well, I do now, right. But, so therein lies the problem. Now, we as a community and as a commission have spent a lot of money over the last 15, 20 years improving our Form B, and we're gonna do that even further in another item. So it's just something to think about. So what the first step is, I've asked for the town attorney, give me an opinion, what the law says, and what can or cannot do. And then this, after we do that, then we're gonna talk again. I see Nancy is reaching for the button. I feel like a game show, you know. Go ahead, press the button.
Since we first brought this up last meeting, I've just had this question in my head. Is it not possible, under the way we currently have the administrative review written, for an administrative review for the two members to come with a recommendation regarding historical significance to the board? So couldn't it be, well, it's just over the date, we don't have a form, you know, can you please?
got it,
So
kiddo.
couldn't that be an administrative review?
could be the way-
Even the way it's currently written, it seems like that might fit, like that.
I agree with you.
The review is either to come with a recommendation regarding significance or a recommendation regarding application.
Okay, two things have to happen. One is that I really would like the attorney to tell me what we can and can't do. And secondly, then, we should modify our rules and regulations. Our rules and regulations are not done arbitrarily. We technically agree amongst ourselves, then we have a public hearing, we let the public know we're changing our rules and regulations, and then we vote on it. So there's a process, and effectively, like we have nothing to do, Christina is helping us begin that process. Okay. Yes, Steph?
May we take these notebooks home?
Yes.
Okay, because before I was told no.
Sure,
sure.
if you'd like to, and then just come with them at the next meeting. One more thing about what you were just discussing. I think we're talking to town council about that process that you just explained, Nancy, and for you to come back to the commission, we would have to notify. So we were just kind of getting we can't talk about somebody's property and not notify them. So we were kind of just going through the whole scenario of things.
No, I think they would still do that,
And it-
the admin review application.
Yes.
You know, and we would have to come back and make a recommendation that the board would then consider formally, which we do.
Yes.
For the admin review, so, yeah,
So
I
we're
guess.
discussing, I guess, what we called it, a preliminary hearing or something along those
Something.
lines. So we
Preliminary
can-
hearing,
Yeah,
exactly.
sounds good.
Okay,
Also,
very
I
good.
didn't have
Thank you.
that section from page 36 on which you just may want to check.
I will email
Have-
it to both of you, and then I'll
She
have
has
copies.
hers, and she
Oh, okay.
gave me a copy of the one she didn't need because she had double. But
Oh.
I'm just saying, you may want to check and make sure
Okay.
everybody has it.
Okay,
Sandy
I'll
doesn't-
email it to you and have a copy for you, or we can go upstairs, and I can print one out for you too, if you're taking it home.
Okay, I'm going to move as quickly as I can. We have no administrator approvals, ratifications, okay, so none. Thirdly, we have a piece of correspondence. I don't know if we have to read it, but there's a piece of correspondence in your packet which is a follow-up of my, no, I have it. In other words, I'm trying to decide how to proceed here. We have it under old business, which is the preparation of the DOE, and I have a comment there that we're continue to await the Conservation Foundation and Nickerson Family Association comments. Everything is done. I'm waiting for the two organizations to come, I guess the word is a rapprochement between them. As part of that, yours truly is staying out of it as much as I can, but trying to encourage the commissions, the Conservation Commission and the Family Association to come to some understanding. You have a piece of correspondence, and for the public's information, it's available public. I won't read it completely, but the Nickerson Family Association has responded to the Conservation Foundation. And very simply, folks, the Nickerson Family Association would prefer the title of the National Register dig being the William and Ann Nickerson Homestead at Monument. Monument is the name of the larger area. The Conservation Foundation's position is just the opposite. They want the Monomock or Monument Ancestral Homelands and the William Nickerson Homestead. So it's chicken and the egg here, and it's got to get resolved. And quite honestly, if it doesn't get resolved soon, I may just ask the commission to allow us to submit it to the Cape Cod, to the to Mass Historic, just the way it is, because it's going to change. This is just the first step in a long process. It's going to take a year or two, and we're just wasting a lot of time. Hopefully, not wasting, it's the wrong word. I would hopefully that we move it along. So that's that, okay? Unless somebody has any comments? Coast Guard Boathouse is hopefully going to happen very shortly, we'll see. Last but not least that we need to talk about is an item on old business, the third item down. I'm going to ask Christina to give us a quick summary of where we are. We've had meetings with Eric Dre. I'm trying to proceed with the update of the Form Bs, as we just discussed. And Christina, I asked Christina to take a quick look at what have we done and what's left to be done. Go ahead, kid.
Yep, so we're in the process of scheduling a meeting with Eric, our planner, Christine, and our director, Katie Donovan, and Frank, and whoever, I'm not sure who else, but we spoke to Eric, Frank, and I the other day, and we kind of just went by what he did in 2015, which was, I believe, a inventory of the whole town. Houses that were 50 years old were looked at and kind of put on a list, high, medium, low, or no. And out of that list, I think he went to the 75 years old homes and did Form Bs for this very sensitive ones, the high ones. And I believe the medium, I believe the low and the no were not done. Maybe some lows were done with Form Bs. Since then, 10 years later, numerous houses have become 75 years old. I think we've had a couple, that maybe should have had Form Bs that, just weren't. We're on the low list. So moving forward, he's going to look at the newly 75-year-old homes and maybe take a look at some of the other homes that don't have Form Bs that were on the low list. And I think that's how we're going to move forward. We're going to do the new Form Bs first. The commission had discussed it last year, possibly, maybe the year before, how to proceed. And then he's going to kind of beef up the older ones. There are some that were done in the 70s, in the 90s, and then in the early 2000s. And, the ones from the 70s do need to be updated. Things have happened, maybe new additions or new owners or something like that. But I think the process moving forward are the new Form Bs, so we can capture, maybe maybe there is a very significant little cottage somewhere, and we're in the talks of moving forward with that process.
Can I ask you to kind of summarize that in an email? Sure. And share it?
Sure.
There's a lot of Form Bs, and there's high, low, yes, no, what does it mean? And it gets a little complicated, and that we're going to spend some more money to update it, and I think it'd be important that we understand what it is. But trust me, the documents we have, which is the Form Bs and the index of Form Bs and Eric's rating is important. I mean, we've done a lot of work as a commission in the last 20 years, and knowing other commissions, we're in pretty good shape in the town. And Chatham has really been, in the forefront. I find, very simply, when I meet with other commissions, different accents, we tend to look at the whole town. Some towns look at, one or two buildings at 7, and that's it. And I think the fact that it's very helpful from my point of view, we may have 2 or 3 historic districts, but it's a large town with a lot of homes, which are pretty old. So I think I'm patting ourselves on the back, not me, trust me. Okay.
I had a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Talking about the whole town, I was looking at this list, which appears to be just the old village, or is there another district or another?
Yes.
So that is just the old village. There is another district in South Chatham that we do have, I haven't updated it since it's kind of a newer district. And then there is quite a substantial book that goes through what I was just talking about, the high, medium, low, and no list.
The whole town.
For the whole town.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so that was done
I
in
was
2000.
confused it's just to see
Yeah,
that.
that was done in 2015, so that list has grown.
Thanks very much. I'm sorry to.
Can you add the South Chatham District to our book?
Yes, I can do that. Yeah, my mistake.
Okay? Yes,
Christina, I was just talking to Robert. He does not have the spiral-bound book. Do we have another spiral-bound book? He came on afterwards.
Not everyone gets the spiral bound book. We only have one copy upstairs.
Oh, okay, so we don't have any extras. I know the commission, I have mine.
We don't, but you're more than welcome to come take a look anytime.
Okay.
yeah, we did, you were talking about the spiral bound, which was the index. Yeah, you have it because you were on the commission at the time we did it, and at that time we shared the index with everybody. What we've done since then, rather than, Cerny, what we've done, rather than giving everybody, that big book, is Christina provides that summary. Tells you what it says, which is probably easier than everybody having an index and turning pages okay?
Is it available digitally, though, that you could, isn't it available to download?
There is a copy digitally. I think there are some issues with formatting. That's why I haven't done it, but I think he was going to work on that with us. But moving forward, I'm wondering if we're going to get another spiral bound with our next, reiteration
we
with
can make
him
that
or
a
something like
task.
that. And we could kind of tag that on and have everybody maybe get a copy.
Well, in my opinion, rather than everybody getting a copy, I don't know about your office, but mine is filled with stuff. I don't need more stuff. I would prefer that you have the spiral bound and share the information with us on a summary basis. And then also, as Nancy's coming from, is just make it available online, that we could go online and get it.
Yes, yep. So back in 2015, again, I think the formatting issues, maybe it was a newer process. But moving forward, we should have very good digital things coming through.
Okay, last but not least, before we leave here for lunch, is I wrote a summary of the annual report. Not a summary, I wrote an update to the annual report. What this is, by the way, just for information, every commission, board, and committee is required to provide an annual report to the town. And if you ever get that book, which they publish, the town annual report, it has the list of all of and I put something together, and hopefully you like what I wrote. If not, you can do it next year. Okay, and I think, one of the things that I was really sad when I had to write the fact that we lost Don and Steve Burlingame, and so anyway, been around too long. Okay, anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Thank you very much. A second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Okay, roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Messina, the chair votes yes. Bob, I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did, with my microphone on.
There it is.
It's a privilege, really.